We've heard recently terrible news about all the tornadoes in the Midwest, including primarily Kentucky. And one of the more shocking stories to come out of last night is a bunch of workers for the Mayfield Consumer Products, which they make candles, were injured and in many cases killed. I think the last I saw was about 74 workers killed because the tornado hit their factory. And one of the things that people don't know, and sometimes they have questions, is okay, is that covered under workers' compensation? We're going to talk about that today. Hi, my name is Britton Morrell. I'm an attorney with Kaplan Morrell. We've been helping injured and disabled workers get the benefits they deserve for work injuries since 1997. And we would love to be able to help you. If you found this video helpful, we'd love you to become part of our online community. Hit like, subscribe, or if you have any comments, comment below, and we'd be happy to answer your questions. In this video, we're going to be discussing when workers get injured due to some sort of kind of a mass disaster, like a big flood, tornadoes, a big hurricane. What if an asteroid hits? What if a volcano erupts in the middle of Los Angeles, let's say, and you're a worker and you get affected because now you're overrun with lava, or any of those kinds of things. When does that become something that's covered under workers' compensation? And we are going to talk about that and how the courts would resolve it, at least in Colorado. As many of you may have seen in the news, number of the dead in western Kentucky, about 74 last count that I saw in the news media, died were workers working overtime at a candle factory that made a bunch of consumer candles for Christmas. Christmas is coming up a few days, and they're doing mandatory overtime. They're doing lots of work there, which is great if you need the money, etc. But what was kind of shocking is that a lot of these workers had not sought shelter, had not been leaving their place of employment to get to shelter, to get to home, and to be able to shelter at home, and were even told by their supervisors, apparently, allegedly, hey, if you leave, you're going to be fired. And then the sirens were going off. They were getting notices on their telephone, hey, take shelter, there's a tornado. And a lot of folks were like, what do we do? We're being faced with, do I keep working and maybe get killed by a tornado, or do I leave and risk losing my job? And there's a whole bunch of employment issues going on there, but this video right now is going to cover about when would something happen where you'd be covered under workers' compensation, because the people who died in this horrific kind of natural disaster, some were at home. Are they covered under work comp? No, they aren't. Some are working. Are they covered under work comp? Maybe, maybe not. And so we're going to talk about when is it more maybe yes versus maybe not. So in Colorado, there is something that's called compensability. And compensability, we've been discussing, means if you've sustained an injury on the job and you are entitled to compensation, then your injury is compensable. Okay? And what that means is that you are entitled to medical care, lost wage benefits, etc. Now, you have to prove that your injury is work-related. What does that require? In a nutshell, what that requires is that you have to show that you sustained an injury in the course and scope of your employment, and that the injury arose out of your employment. And we've been talking about what course and scope means, but in the cases of natural disaster, typically you have to show that there is some connection with what caused your injury to your employment. So I'll give you an example, a weird one, but here it is. Let's say there's a huge, massive earthquake that takes out an entire city, Los Angeles. It sinks into the ocean. Everybody goes. Everybody at home, everybody in the street, everybody working, etc. Is that a work injury that arose out of your employment? And typically you would say, not really, because whether you were at work or you were at home, you were still going to get injured. So in those kinds of cases, insurance companies would likely deny liability, deny the claim for compensation based on an argument that, hey, this was a mass natural disaster. It took out everybody, whether they were working or not. There was nothing about your job that led you to get injured. So you have to show in those kinds of situations that your employment put you in a position of risk, and that's called a positional risk analysis for those of you who really want to know all the geeky law terms. Positional risk, and you have to be able to show to a judge that your job put you in a position where you were at greater risk working than you would have otherwise been at risk had you not been working. So the hardworking folks at the Mayfield Consumer Products Division, Candle Division, and I mean the photos are horrific of what this factory looks like. It took a direct blow to their tornado. Are they going to be able to show that their work put them in greater risk for injury damage than otherwise? And I believe if the facts pan out the way that the media is showing them, that they have an excellent argument to show that the work put them in a greater risk. A, it kept them in the path of the tornado. B, there's proof or evidence, at least, in terms of that the employer kept the folks at work, told them that they couldn't leave or that if they left they would be fired, etc. And they could argue that us staying there rather than me doing what I wanted to, which was to go home and seek shelter or to be able to get to a more safe location, I was prevented by doing it, encouraged, threatened, however you want to talk about it, to stay there in place. That is going to be something that I believe an administrative law judge would be very persuaded by. Okay. If, on the other hand, natural disaster strikes and it wipes out everybody, and your home, let's say a dam breaks and a flood occurs, and it floods the entire valley, and if you'd been home, you would have been washed away. If you'd been at work, you were washed away. Chances are it's not going to be covered under workers' compensation. But if you can show that you traveled to that location and the only reason you were in that location was because of work, you've probably satisfied the positional risk analysis that it's done. The biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is sometimes things aren't really clear about when things are work-related or not, and sometimes people think the stuff that happens isn't work-related when in fact it is, and sometimes people think if it happens at work, it's automatically compensable. They automatically are covered under workers' compensation, and that isn't true either. It just depends. It depends. And that's why it's really important for you to get an attorney if you or someone you love or one member of your family is injured on the job in Colorado. Let them know that there is a law firm that helps injured workers with on-the-job injuries. It's all we do. It's the only thing we've been doing since 1997. Our initial consultations are free, they're confidential, and if we think we can help you and you want us to help you, we charge only a contingent fee, which means we don't charge you unless we are successful in getting you benefits. And if you need help, or if you just want to chat with somebody about a situation at work that has caused an injury, feel free to reach out to us. I'll put up all the information there. You can call us, text us, email us, look at our website. You can do some questions down below, and we would be happy to help you. And with that, thank you for spending part of your day with me.